Hey, do you want to see a magic trick? This still ain't Super League, folks. No Captain's Challenge, no video ref, no golden point. Just blood and guts, edge your seat, sing it from the top of your lungs, Rugby League. This is Beyond Super League, celebrating all things Betfred Championship. And this is episode 2. My name is Rob. I sometimes go by Up the Chemics. I'm a Witness Vikings fan. I'm a Rugby League fan, but most importantly, I am a Championship fan, a division that I think gets precious little attention. And I'm on a mission to create content that celebrates the championship, the players, the clubs, the staff that keep this league alive, and that make it the best kept secret in Rugby League. So every week, we're here to give you a roundup of all the games, bring you up to date on all the news, and hopefully take you behind the scenes at the clubs that make this league tick. This show is brand new, so please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe if you like what you see. Make sure you are first through the turnstile every time a new episode drops. Let's get straight into it. This, my friends, is the good stuff. Let's take a look at what happened in this weekend's fixtures. A few standout fixtures for me this weekend. We're going to start with Goole taking on Dewsbury. The Vikings picking up a 28-24 victory. Goole took an early lead. Jaden Hodgson, influential from dummy half. He got the first try, then set up big Liam Watts for the second. A Jack Miller penalty extended the lead even further, but Tom Delaney got one back for the Rams. It was 14-6 at the half. The sides then traded tries early on in the second, and at 2010, Goole might have thought it was sewn up, but Dewsbury had something left in the tank. A brace from my pal Liam Copland, including one, I believe, running the length of the pitch, and then a Dan Coates effort put them in front. That final try on the 70th minute, converted by Paul Sykes, celebrating his 200th appearance for the Dewsbury Rams just before his 45th birthday. Incredible stuff. However, there was still time for the Vikings to break Rams' hearts. Jack Coventry, his first try for Goole in the 77th minute, winning it. A resounding victory for Goole, but for Dewsbury, it takes them a little bit further away from the playoffs after falling out of the top 10 last week. Moving into a couple of big games on Sunday, Oldham hosted Barrow. Oldham picking up the win, 28-16, extending their unbeaten run in the league to 16 games. And that was despite the fact that they trailed multiple times in the game. Oldham did score first, but a couple of tries from Barrow nudged them in front. Alex Bishop in the halves in the absence of Brad Walker. 12-4 was your score at half-time. Tom Nisbet capitalised on a Luke Cresswell spill under the high ball to get the Ruffians back in it. Jared Stack put Barrow back in front, but as we approached the final stage of the game, it was Oldham who turned on the class. Tries from Luke Forber, Bailey Lou, and Josh Drinkwater made it look pretty comfortable in the end. Oldham now third only on point difference. If you want to talk about nail-biters, how about Hunslet and Whitehaven? 18-16 to Whitehaven, but it was a kick away on the hooter from being a different result. What a run Whitehaven are on, by the way. And they'll have thought that this was a comfortable 2 points when they were 18-0 up at one point. But with 20 minutes to go, Hunslet kicked into gear, a double from Harrison Gilmore. And then on the 74th minute, Charlie Graham went over to make it 16-18. Hunslet got a penalty on the hooter, but Lee Gaskell wasn't able to convert to level the score. Whitehaven back off to Cumbria with the points in the bag. Plenty more action across the league. A couple of games on Friday. Widnes Vikings hosted Salford RLFC. 52-8 was the final score. Scoreline makes it look comfortable, but it was a closer run thing than you might have thought, especially in the first 40. Salford tackled hard. They were aggressive. Widnes struggled to get out at times. Kieran Dixon, a standout for me on his return to Norton Park. He's such a capable, confident player. Carries out of backfield so aggressively, so quick off the step, puts defences on the back foot from the first tackle. And apart from a bit of a lengthy and interesting conversion routine under the sticks that ended up in him missing, much to the delight of the home fans, I thought he was pretty much spot on. Widnes turned on the class in the second, though, as Salford began to tire. Standout performances from Tom Gilmore, who's in a real purple patch, pulling the strings in the halves. Jordan Johnson, workmanlike as always, whether at 9 when he starts or when he moves back to loose forward. And Nathan Connell, consistent as always, particularly in attack. But Jack Billington, the real standout for me. The on-loan Huddersfield Giants second rower was sublime. I expect to see him playing consistent Super League rugby next year. Elsewhere, Doncaster beat Batley 22-10. The Bulldogs travelled to the Club Doncaster Sports Village, didn't even realise it wasn't the Eco Power anymore. The visitors did score first, but Donny got a foothold in the game, ran up a lead at half-time. 2 tries from Tom Holmes amongst them. Really underrated season, I think, from the Donny fullback. Lots of talk about names like Jack Walker, Maria, Luke Cresswell, but I think Holmes is up there with the top fullbacks in the league this year. Looks a really shrewd signing from Bradford, particularly when you think he was stepping into big shoes with the retiring Craig Hall. Speaking of fullbacks, though, Batley have got a pretty good one themselves. Robbie Butterworth crossed again to make it a bit of a game in the second half. But with the clock widening down, Eden Agebe did the things that Eden Agebe does. He scored, he stretched the scoreline out, he put the match to bed. The second Saturday game saw Newcastle Thunder taking on Swinton. Thunder, probably as expected, 34-10, your winners. Jordan Lipp partnering Will Roberts in the halves again. It's a partnership that seems to be working. Both were instrumental, a try for Lipp and a brace for Roberts. Swinton rallied in the second half, managed to bag a couple of tries, but they were never really in it. Paddy Arvan, a makeshift halfback in this one. They remain firmly at the bottom end of the table. Into the last of Sunday's games, and it was a demolition job at the Midlands Hurricanes by London Broncos. 78-16, the champions in waiting finished. Jimmy Meadows playing at fullback. He looked in fine form. Gyro Voro with another hat-trick. 10 different scorers for the Broncos. The point difference, by the way, is now over 1,000. It's on track to probably be the most dominant season we've ever seen in the Championship. Other end of the table, Workington were able to climb a few places. They beat Keighley. 36-24 was your final score. It was the key men that delivered for Town. Tries from Lawther, Galea and Phillips, plus a brace from Tanner Featherstone on the wing. Keighley were 18-16 up at one point, but they weren't able to hold on. I don't have much more on this one. I'm sorry. Town, I've got the updates for their scorers, but Keighley don't put in-game updates on. So until we see the highlights, I've not got the full details. But what I do know is Keighley need a win. And last but not least, South Yorkshire, comfortable victory for Sheffield Eagles against Rochdale Hornets. 56-6 was the final score. Rochdale lost TJ Boyd in the warm-up. But once the whistle went, Sheffield dominated throughout. The halfback pairing of Abdul and Morgan in fine form once again. Another brace from Billy Walkley as well on the wing. Sheffield are getting close to the teams above them in the playoff places. They'll definitely have the likes of Barrow looking over the shoulders. That's about it for the game week. Let's have a look at what it means for the table. London Broncos sitting pretty at the top, of course. They are undefeated this season. Newcastle and Oldham, however, not far behind them, 34 points apiece. Widnes are in 4th, but then Barrow down in 5th with Doncaster and Sheffield hot on their heels, both with games in hand. Midlands Hurricanes couldn't pick up any more points, of course, in their game against the London Broncos, but they're still out in front from the chasing pack. Whitehaven, though, moving up to 9th. What a run they are on. They're getting a bit closer to the Hurricanes, whilst Batley stay in 10th. Dewsbury Rams fall a little bit further away from the playoff spots after their defeat. But we do see some climbs in the bottom half of the table. Goole and Workington Town both up a few places. Running out of time and fixtures a little bit, those teams currently outside the playoff spots if they do want to make a final push. But probably still an opportunity for those around 11th to 14th to have a go if fixtures go their way. However, bottom of the table, much the same. Crusaders and Halifax Panthers didn't play. They've both been impacted by point deductions following their financial difficulties. We now move into August for the last month of fixtures in the regular season. That's your league table for this week. Let's get over to do some transfer news. We are starting to see more movement between clubs in the Championship as players sign for the 2027 season. Not uncommon, of course, for them to come in early and finish the 2026 season with their new team as well. Big news, of course, being Liam Sutcliffe moving to the Midlands Hurricanes after being released by Huddersfield Giants. He started at centre in the game against the London Broncos. He's there till the end of the season. Second rower Harvey Bradish also made his debut for a new club. He left St Helens to join the Rochdale Hornets. He played in their defeat against Sheffield, following in the footsteps of his dad, who was also a Hornets player. Bradford Bulls reserve team captain Finn Thompson joined the Dewsbury Rams this week on a permanent deal. And Dylan Kelly Duffy left Rochdale to sign for Swinton. He joins his brother Trent at the Lions. A couple of loan deals for the Widnes Vikings, Andrew Badrock and Nathan Wild joining from Lee Leopards. Bit of confusion over the terms of the deal. Widnes said it till the end of the season. Lee didn't specify that. And Lee have got some injury issues of their own. Frankie Holton coming off in their game against Warrington this weekend. That could see Badrock go back. It'll be interesting to see what that squad looks like next week. And then moving into a couple of contract extensions, Brad Dwyer has extended his stay at Salford. The huge news of Mark Sneed's signing was followed up by a retention announcement for their captain and assistant coach. Big deal for this. He's been a talisman for that side in a difficult year. Salford, it appears, are planning to make big improvements throughout the squad, so having him as a part of that is massive. And speaking of massive, the talismanic Kieran Walker will be at Whitehaven next season. The halfback has signed a contract extension for next year. Another try for him in their victory against Hunslet. He is in some form at the moment. Whitehaven fans will be absolutely buzzing to have tied him down. That's all your news for now. Let's have a look at our team of the week. And it can only really be one team this week for me, Oldham RLFC. Not just because of that victory over Barrow, but what it means as an accumulation of what they've achieved this season. 16 wins on the bounce, not defeated since that game against Widnes all those months ago. They are in superlative form. And I do think that the achievements this season of the club are being a little bit overlooked circumstantially. The fact that we have London, that full-time Super League quality side dominating, the inclusion of Newcastle in the top part of the table because of their partnership with York and their relatively easier fixture list because of the pendulum system, has meant that the Ruffians haven't really had the focus that they deserve based on their season so far. You have to say that you take those variables out of it, and this is a team that's performing in a way that would win the championship most years. And Alan Kilshaw deserves an awful lot of credit. There were question marks from all over about whether he was the right man to replace Sean Long, but he's been brilliant in every decision he's made, particularly given the amount of change and upheaval there's been at the club in 2026. Not just behind the scenes with the ground situation and the board, Bill Quinn stepping down, but also on the pitch. Remember, they lost Ryan Briley, who decided to take a role as the CEO for Salford right at the start of the season. He was due to line up for Oldham in 2026. They've also lost Jack Ormondroyd, Riley Dean, Cole Geyer, all to Super League clubs, but every single time they've adapted and they've continued to deliver. There's no denying that Oldham have got a lot of money, they've got a very, very strong squad, but the mentality to deliver week on week like they have has been really, really impressive. Sometimes they're absolutely blowing sides away, but they're grinding results out as well when they need to. This is a team that is absolutely on top form, in my opinion. And this week against Barrow really epitomised that. They went behind a couple of times, but they didn't capitulate. They didn't panic. They continued to play their game. They trusted in the ability of themselves and of the other players around them. And in the end, they ran out pretty comfortable winners if you take it based on the scoreline. They've got a big game coming up against London. The Broncos have to travel up to Boundary Park, and I don't think it's going to be an easy ride for them. But perhaps more importantly, it could be a precursor for the grand final in October. Oldham are 100% for me the most likely to not only get to the final against London as long as the draw goes their way, but to give them a game if they do. Absolutely awesome stuff once again from the Ruffians. Big win, 16 in a row, team of the week. A few final thoughts for me on the hooter, and this week I want to talk about retro rounds. A few clubs have had initiatives on a game day this season encouraging fans to come along in their favourite old school kit. Whether offering reduced entry, a prize draw, or just the feel-good factor of the good old days. I absolutely love it. So that got me thinking a bit more about my favourite retro kit. So let's see if this works. Yeah? Good transition, bad transition, I'm still learning. The point is, I wanted to get this on to finish off the episode. And it's just the story behind it. This isn't the oldest Widnes kit I've got. It's probably not the best design or the coolest looking, but it's the one that means the most to me. This is the 2014 Widnes kit. And the reason it means so much to me is I bought it about 2 weeks after I started dating my girlfriend, the lady who would go on to become my wife. At the time, Widnes had the club shop, Widnes fans, you'll remember it was in the front of the big Tesco. And she realised that me at about 27 years old couldn't look after himself. So she took me Christmas shopping to get presents for all my family. And as a gift to myself for being such a good boy going around the shops, I got this kit. So it's one that's really special to both of us, which is why if you watch any of my footage on social media, sometimes you'll see me wearing it, sometimes you'll see Sammy wearing it. So that is why this is my favourite retro kit. So what I want to know is what's your favourite retro kit? Get in touch, and next week, if nobody gets in touch, I'll just ignore that this ever happened and we'll just forget it. But if people do get in touch, send me an email, upthechemics1986@gmail.com, or send me a message on any of the social media. Send me a picture of you in your favourite retro kit, and I'll share some of the best ones on next week's episode. That just about does it for episode 2 of Beyond Super League. I'm off to Disney with the kids, so I'm going to be a little bit radio silent. We'll be back next week to round up all the action from the best kept secret in Rugby League, the Betfred Championship. See you next time. Hey, do you want to see a magic trick?